Who lives in a pineapple under the sea? SpongeBob SquarePants. Yellow, square, cute, hardworking, and funny. But is he a good role model for kids? Many believe he's not. Welcome to Theory of Everything, where we're going to serve you a plate full of rumors, dark facts, true, and conspiracy theory, basically about everything. It could be about your favorite songs, favorite band, movies, series, games, or even your childhood muse. And this time we're going to break down a certain popular cartoon show that loved by children but resented by the parents.
Who lives in a pineapple under the sea?
SpongeBob SquarePants is a Nickelodeon animated comedy television series created by Steven Hillenburg, a marine science educator and animator in 1999. The series chronicles the adventures of the title character and his aquatic friends in the fictional underwater city of Bikini Bottom. It is the highest rated series to air on Nickelodeon, as well as the most profitable property for Paramount Consumer Products, having generated over $13 billion a year. The series takes place primarily in the fictional benthic underwater city of Bikini Bottom, a location inspired by the real-life coral reef known as Bikini Atoll. Bikini Atoll is a coral reef containing a number of islands located in Pacific Ocean. It used as a place to run nuclear tests by United States from 1946 to 1958. This led to fans' suspicion that all the characters in the SpongeBob SquarePants were born from nuclear radiation, which explains some bizarreness of their appearance and, of course, behavior. And did you know that the name of our yellow buddy was slightly different from what we know today? Our protagonist almost called SpongeBob instead of SpongeBob, but it's soon disregarded because the name already owned by a cleaning company. I think it suited him more, because SpongeBob more likely described a character with superhero ability rather than a childlike and annoying sponge. But what do you think? And we can talk about the original of SpongeBob without comparing it to the born of his loyal companion, Patrick Star. Our pink gentle sea star was originated to be bulky and threatening, and was intended to be a bully. Of course, we can never imagine how it would like, and we're glad that the idea was cancelled. Because we love the Patrick we know today, even sometimes we lose our patience of his slouch attitude. And there is a related connection between Patrick Star and a real-life sea star. In the animal kingdom, sea star is known as a species without a brain. That is why Patrick appears clueless sometimes, if not every time. All the characters in the series appear to be easy to remember and recognize, because of their name itself represents a straightforward representation of each species. All but one. Do you know which one? Let's see. SpongeBob is a sponge, Eugene Crab is a crab, Sandy Squirrel is a squirrel, and Plankton is obviously a plankton. But not Squidward, who is indeed an octopus and not a squid. Why is that happen? Apparently, the creator loved the name and decided to keep it that way. Even though a squid and an octopus are definitely different to one another in terms of anatomy. But hey, that is prerogative, right? And that is also the reason why he's never wearing pants. Because in an octopus anatomy, a sexual organ they use to reproduce are located in one of the tentacles. So the body part that needed to be covered are not their bottom, but their upper. Since the first airing in 1999, SpongeBob soon became a fan favorite, especially among the children. The series first intended to be only half the season, but each year the rumor of their cancellation always debunked time and time again. And now, the series still continues in its 12 seasons. But its popularity seems always comes with its controversy. Unlike The Simpsons or The Family Guy, which both targeted a more mature audience, SpongeBob SquarePants was aiming for children between 6 to 11 years old. That's why their backlash and critics sometimes are more well-rounded. SpongeBob himself is depicted as a naive and charming creature with positive energy and a good-hearted character. But the show itself is far from innocent, decent, or even a good role model for its audience. Because it's sometimes downright scandalous, rude, and inappropriate. One of the most loud critics was due to the immense content of an adult show. And for the show targeted children, this is something that parents out there really concerned about. In one of the episodes, SpongeBob was hastily changed the TV channel when Gary entered the room after previously enjoying himself over a film about a pretty sea coral that moves languidly and sensually on the screen. And SpongeBob's expression during the show appeared with a very suggestive manner. With wide eyes, strict posture, clearly mesmerized and interest heavy in his face. But he was quickly resumed from his trance when Gary entered the room. He panicked and changed the channel to a random sport. It's implying that our Sponge buddy was watching some mature content. Is this reaction look familiar? If it is, it's because it was so related to our own habit as an adult when there were children around. And we baffled of their sudden intrusion while trying to neutralize error. Another episode that widely criticized for its adult joke was when SpongeBob tried to blow up a balloon. Sure, balloon was very child-friendly, but not this one, because the balloon appeared to be colorless and has a long length and particular shape that often associated with adult male activity. Who can blame the parents for worrying over the series after this? But were they stopped there? Absolutely not.
Patrick, you can't. That's it! Patrick, your genius is showing.
Where?
Really things?
Some of the backlash coming not from the content of the series itself, but from their association and cooperation with other brands that went too far. In 2009, Burger King made an advertisement of their collaboration with the series by releasing a parody to a hit single of Sir Mix-a-Lot, Baby Got Back.
I like square butts and I cannot lie. Squid and sea star can't deny. When a sponge walks in, four corners in his pants like he got phone book implants, the crowd shouts.
From the lyric to the dance choreography and to the suggestive camera shot, it was hard to not cringe of how a children's cartoon has to be a part of this sexist and inappropriate ads. Everyone quite shocked about the blatant mature suggestion about our friendly yellow sponge, which targeted children audience could be featured such as. But that was not the end of the backlash. Far from it. And we're going to dig deeper onto it in the next segment, including all dark theories surrounding our fellow citizen of Bikini Bottom. Stay tuned! Welcome back to Theory of Everything, where we serve you as your voice of curiosity to some popular content heavy with dark meaning, hidden messages, and theory. We leave you before with the dark truth of SpongeBob SquarePants creation and the backlash they receive of their association with adult joke and content. And now, we're going to continue our take on the matter of another controversy of our yellow fellow. So, strap in! Aside of being criticized of their slave of an adult content, SpongeBob is also very influential in the eyes of media. It proved by various allegations targeted by many official organizations addressing their content. In 2005, NBC News released a story titled TV Ads Contributed to Child Obesity and argued that Spongebob was a part of the problem because our yellow-friendly body was heavily associated with junk food that's predominantly high in calories and low with nutrition, a kind of diet that will put children's long-term health in risk. Well, of course, who wants to put their children in danger, right? But is it everything in today's content could be risky? Not only our yellow dude and his pink companion, but it is what it is. Being a parent is such a hard job nowadays. Talking about parents, a group called Parents Television Council or PTC were also one of organizations who found that SpongeBob SquarePants could potentially influence children in a bad way. In one of the episodes titled Sailor Mouth, our yellow friend and his pink best buddy discover a new kind of language and having a little time to enjoy themselves with their discovery. Meaning, they swear a lot in this episode, which was horrified many citizens in Bikini Bottom and apparently the PTC.
Hi, Squidward! How the f are ya?
Nice day, isn't it, Squidward?
They thought that this episode encouraged children to use profanity in real life. What do you guys think? Do you think we learned to swear from SpongeBob or from our own neighborhood? But that was not the end of the backlash. Far from it. In 2011, a study was conducted by University of Virginia that stated that SpongeBob was actually messing up with children's memory retention. They divided the number of 4-year-old children into two groups. One group to watch SpongeBob for 9 minutes, and another group to draw. Immediately after, they asked both groups to do problem-solving and behavior tests. The children group that were drawing had no noticeable abnormalities, but the group who watched SpongeBob had impairment to the test. According to lead investigator and psychology professor of SAID project, this might be because the way how camera cut away so quickly and so often. It causes young kids to have worse attention span, resulting in children lack of focus and worse, mimicking their character. From adult joke to suggestion of profanity to use as a study, it seems like SpongeBob has through it all, don't you think? But no, of course not. One thing that our media today will surely make sure that there is no content left uncriticized for being pushing an agenda, and SpongeBob was definitely one of it. As best friends, SpongeBob and Patrick were almost inseparable, and their closeness to one another were expressed by their act, whether by they holding hands, hugging, or ridiculously adopting a baby scallop together. And some view this as a confirmation that SpongeBob was indeed a gay. Also adding with the fact that either SpongeBob or Patrick have had a love interest ever. This allegation forced the creator Stephen Hillenburg to make a statement that SpongeBob was somewhat asexual, while the voice actor of SpongeBob, Tom Kenny, stated that SpongeBob is a naive person who still views the world through children's eyes. And if he is going to ever marry, he was marrying to his job. The accusation of pushing agenda came full circle when Fox News criticized one of the special's short episodes titled The Endless Summer, in which shown how Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob released a massive amount of carbon dioxide and causing Bikini Bottom to become inhabitable. Fox protested the episode for being an advocate of liberal agenda and presenting a global warming as a fact. That was the controversy behind SpongeBob SquarePants. But what about their conspiracy theory? Well, fasten your seatbelt, cause we're about to dig into it. Have you ever wondered how a crab like Mr. Krabs adopted a Hell as a daughter? And why on earth there was none of other crab in Bikini Bottom? The theory surrounding these facts is somewhat creepy and disturbing. But this is what conspiracy theory was intended, right? In Bikini Bottom, we only ever spotted other crustacean aside Mr. Krabs was Larry the lobster. Where were the rest of the crabs? In nature, crab is a species who often fight with one another. Maybe that's why Mr. Krabs appears as a single species because he has been eliminated every other crab before the story takes place. And notice how the show treated the recipe for Krusty Krab in a very sacred and mysterious way, and how Mr. Krab took the safety of its recipe very seriously. Some say that the recipe will confirm that the main ingredient for the famous Krabby Patty was indeed a crab meat. That means Mr. Krab is a cannibal. And that was also the reason behind the restaurant name. And also, how the shape of the restaurant looking like a crab trap in real life. Another theory for the main ingredients of Krabby Patty is that Mr. Krab used a whale as a source of meat. Imagine how even just one whale could provide a huge amount of meat, and that leads to theory why Mr. Krab have adopted Pearl in the first place. Mr. Krab said to have killed Pearl's real parents but then felt guilty and shame of what he had done. So, he adopted Pearl. And we all audience could see that if there was a character in Bikini Bottom that Mr. Krab cared the most, it was Pearl. Mr. Krab is a cunning businessman, a calculated boss, and a manipulative friend. But whenever Pearl was concerned, he was nothing but a doting father. Well, that is the dark truth, controversy, and conspiracy theory behind one of our favorite characters, SpongeBob SquarePants. Is there something we missed? Make sure to give us your feedback. And hopefully, we didn't ruin your childhood hero. See you later! Welcome back to Theory of Everything. Do you enjoy music, movie, series, comic book, or are you the one who loves indulging your inner self with conspiracy theory, hidden meaning, or simply just knowledge about your favorite artists? Stay tuned because we have them all. In 1960, the world have been witnessing the birth of the most powerful band to ever walk the earth, the Beatles. Their album were sold over 1 billion units worldwide, solidifying the Beatles as the most-selling musical artists of all time. Although their lifespan as a band only lasted less than 10 years, but their music, influence, and masterpiece are still linger into the era. Even though most millennials maybe recognize them in their parents' or grandparents' collection. Today, we're going to travel back in time to unfolding the truth and facts that known only by their hardcore fans called the Beatlemania. If after watching this you became Beatlemania yourself, then it will be our greatest achievement. The most well-known fact about the band of this four talented Englishmen is that the band was born in Liverpool. John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr were met when they were only teenagers. But did you know that two of their members were having a hard childhood? John Lennon's father barely exists, and he was spending his childhood torn between his mother and his aunt, who kept at each other's throat. Lennon even grew up as a rascal. He led a gang, involved in shoplifting, and even became a bully. Meanwhile, Ringo Starr, who was born a Richard Starkey, were abandoned by his father at a very young age. And he had a serious illness that confined him to live in a sanatorium for 2 years due to tuberculosis. But both of them found a solace in music, and that was how they all united years later to form the most influential band in the world. Their talent in music must not be underestimated. Hundreds of their songs were created by their own hand, even though none of them ever gotten an education in music instrument. So not a single member of the Beatles could read and compose musical notes. They simply used their instinct and their raw talent. In their earlier career, they will record their work and then handed it to the studio composer who will translate their tunes to musical notes. By the time most members finally catch up, with one exception. Sir Paul McCartney said he's still blind in such sort of things. Before settled in with the name we know and love today, the group first name were the Quarrymen. But when they found out that the name were not that good, they changed it to Johnny and the Moondogs, and then the Nerd Twins. Still felt uneasy, they changed it again to the Beatles, inspired by the already established band, the Crickets. Eventually, they changed it again even though they still gone for a back team. The Silver Beatles, the Silver Beats, the Silver Beatles, and finally, the Beatles. They usually perform in local clubs in Liverpool and Hamburg. Until they finally met Brian Epstein in one of the clubs, who later became the band manager. Epstein were fighting Klaus and Els to try to sell his band, but they kept subsequently rejected. Until 1962, Epstein booked a deal with the music producer George Martin from IMI, Parlophone Records. The band released their first debut album, Please Please Me. It was the first of 11 consecutive Beatles albums released in the United Kingdom to reach number 1. But their journey to become the worldwide phenomenon was still on its way in 1963. An unknown to many that the Beatles have to struggle first when they first came to United States. From the typo of the band's name, to their first ever interview session in a morning segment on CBS were aired at November 22, 1963, the day when US President John F. Kennedy was shot. The nation was not paying attention to 4 British dudes when their beloved president was just being assassinated. There was even an incident during one of their songs played on the radio. One of the listeners were phoning the radio station and asking to stop the song. But everything changed a few months later after their single I Want to Hold Your Hand hits number 1. So the British invasion was begin. In February 1964, for the first time ever, they performed in America's television. Watched by hundreds of cheering fans in studios and 73 million viewers at home. That was almost 40% of American population at the time. It cemented that their superstar status is not only in America, but around the world. And, as you might have said, the rest is history. Their performance on Ed Sullivan's show considered as one of the most important moments in music history, along with Michael Jackson's Moonwalk, Elvis Presley on Milton Berle Show, Born of MTV, and Queen at Live Aid. The Beatles' popularity was starstruck in no time, but it also came with its ugly side. Growing up as a working-class citizen in a country of ruling monarch, the band members were famous of their resentment of ruling class, capitalism, and feudal system. During a tour of the Philippines, the Beatles unintentionally snubbed the invitation of the nation's First Lady, Imelda Marcos. When presented with the invitation, Epstein politely declined on the band members' behalf, as it had never been his policy to accept such official invitation. They soon found out that the Marcos regime was unaccustomed to taking no for an answer. The moment they landed in Manila, the porter refused to attend to their luggage. The hotel refused to give them room service. The elevator was switched off, and Brian Epstein, the manager, were even punched in the face. Another controversy was occurred in 1965 when John Lennon made a statement that implied that the Beatles were more famous than Jesus. This angered various religious representations, including the Pope. Protest rallies were become common when they're smashing and burning records, a boycott, even a death threat. Ku Klux Klan called them a tease, and their tour were often disturbed by cherry bomb during their performance.
You know, but I'm not saying that we're better or greater or comparing us with Jesus Christ as a person or God as a thing or whatever it is.
This led to the band finally decided that they will never going on a tour ever again. Aside for the safety reason, the band member felt that every time they went on a tour, they almost couldn't hear themselves due to the crowd constant screaming. They believed that the cheering crowd no longer appreciated their music but only the Beatles as individuals. It is something that they didn't want from their fans. So 1966 to 1970 became their studio years, and they really made every minute of it counted. In less than 3 years, they produced 6 albums: A Hard Day's Night, Beatles for Sale, Hell, Rubber Soul, Revolver, and Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. But sadly, their studio years has also become their last year together as a band. Many rumors has spread out about the various reasons of their breakup. Which one was true and which one just a speculation? We're going to break it down later, including the fun facts about their other talent as an actor in the big screen. Who would have guessed, right? But it's our job and pleasure to hand it to you, dearest audience, along with other delicious rumor and fact about popular culture we know and love today. See you tomorrow.